Chairman, it's Tracy Clark, Democratic and Governance Officer.
Oh, hi Tracy.
I can confirm that we are now live again, but we're on members and officers present should stay on this meeting. But for the public, we've had to go to a new live stream link, which I've uploaded now to the committee page. So, well, it's difficult because if any members of the public were on the old live stream, they won't be accessing this, but I'm hoping that they will be able to go onto the committee page and access the new live stream link.
Okay, thank you. So is it your recommendation that we should, continue?
Yes, it's we're up and running again now on a new live stream link, which has been published on the committee page. I don't think there's much else we can do really apart from continue.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Tracy. Then that's exactly what we will do. I think Councillor Harris had just finished his questions and had given notice that he had a couple of questions for part 2 issues. So now I'm going to go to Councillor Atherfold. Councillor Atherfold, are you there? Would you like to ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. One of the recommendations, number 3, is that the £10 million emergency loan facility is extended to March of 23. On page 24, it suggests the reason for this is that reserves are low due to the ongoing pandemic. And I'm just wondering to what extent we've eaten into our reserves, and just by definition, if they are reserves, why have we got them into such a situation whereby we're needing to ask for a loan extension?
Shall I pick that one up, Kath?
Please.
Thank you very much for the question. So the reason, let's just go back to the initial reason for the loan in the first place. So obviously during the COVID situation earlier this financial year, we saw some obviously stopping of works, and like every other company in the country, we faced some issues around kind of cash flow. I requested an additional extension for the loan because as a company, we don't carry a massive cash balance in this group. I think everybody understands that position. We carry somewhere between 3 or 4 weeks kind of cash coverage in this group, which isn't huge for an organisation of this size. So at the time, to be prudent, it was recommended that we put in place that emergency provision so that if we get 20 points during the COVID cycle, that we had access to liquidity, so there were no issues in that situation. I'd just like to say we didn't actually take up that offer. We got close at points during the period. I don't think that surprises anybody, but we didn't actually access that loan, which I think is great testament to the work that the team did, to be fair, during that period. We've now reached the end of this financial kind of cycle. The balance in on the cash position has kind of almost recovered to pre-COVID levels now across the group, excluding PRA. We're around about £13 million cash at the end of the period, so we're almost back to pre-COVID levels. The reason why I've kind of done this is we're still in a period of uncertainty, shall we say. I don't think any of us know where the future is going to go over the next couple of years. As Pete mentioned at the beginning, we need to invest in this group. We've got some capex that we need to invest in, particularly in year 1, where we need to invest in our fleet, which I held back a bit during COVID to kind of manage the cash position. But we also need to invest in some of our systems, which I'm sure will come up as a question later on. Now, the purpose of this really is the same reason as I asked for in the COVID position, is that during the life cycle of this business plan, we will eat into our cash position a little bit. It will get a little bit tight, should we say. So just in terms of prudence, I would like to have that availability there so that we don't have any issues on cash flow as we go through this business plan cycle. You'll see we're not intending to use it. That's documented in the business plan, but I think it would be prudent. And I think we've demonstrated that we're not irresponsible in the use of our funding, but I think it would be prudent that we have access to it through this business plan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm now moved on to Councillor Keeling, please. John Keeling.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. First of all, I'm quite interested in what Councillor Harris had to say about CDC. It's been with us a long time now, and perhaps some kind of scrutiny, task and finish group looking at that wouldn't be a bad idea, but perhaps in the next council. But my But my question is more of an inquiry, really. It's on paragraph 2.21 and about the dividend payment of 3.94 million for airport losses. And of course, this is against the cash benefit returned from the group of companies of about 5.3 million. And that, of course, is against a target of 6.2 million for 2021. I also note in the table that the airport, that an airport subsidy of 4.088 million will be given over 4 years to 24-25, reducing the benefit. And I just want to, I'm not an accountant, so I just want to know, will that dividend get repaid at some stage to the group of companies?
Phil, do you want to answer this one as well? It's very financial, and are you happy to do it in the open session?
Yeah, could I ask we move that to pink papers if that's okay, or unless you want me to answer it here, Catherine?
No, we'll make a note of that, John, if you're happy. We will come back to it, but I'm been advised that it might touch on confidential issues. We will hear the answer, but I'll save it for part 2 if you don't mind.
I don't really see why it should be part 2, given it's in part 1 and the tables are there. It's just a simple explanation. As I said, I'm not an accountant. I just wanted to know, perhaps, that that the money we're giving, as the dividends we're giving, will actually produce a return sometime for us. I understand the tax situation. I've read that, but I just. Okay. But if that's what you want to do, fine.
Okay, John. Thank you very much for that. Moving on, Councillor Kirkham, please.
That was good timing. I was just putting something in to say that I was going to nip out to another meeting and come back. So you've caught me just before I did that, which is brilliant. Thank you. Couple of questions. I was going to ask about the new facilities management company. I'm afraid I missed the earlier briefing because I'm not on this committee. So excuse me if I'm asking questions that have already been covered. The private rented accommodation that company holds, I was a bit confused. So that's not held as social housing or anything else. It's held as private rented accommodation. And will that be charged at affordable rent or social rent or at open market rent? I was just confused about that slightly. And the new company, obviously there'll be employees moving over from other parts of CASSOSC. Being a Labour councillor, I'm concerned about terms and conditions and LGPS, and I wondered if you could say how many of those employees that will be affected that will be crossing over to the new company, and whether their terms and conditions will be affected and their pensions, and what will be the situation for any new employees of that new company, and whether they will receive the LGPS and the other benefits that they would previously have done in Cornwall Housing or wherever they came from, or not. I also had a question that I'm not sure whether it was straight into the pink paper, so I will double check about the possibility of any joint ventures. And I'm not sure, maybe I should keep that till the pink papers. Mm-hmm. If not, then I'll ask it now.
Yeah, I think that the JV stuff was redacted for the pink papers thing, I think, Catherine.
Okay, I'll come back later with that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
So, I was going to say, Kath, if you answer the first question. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, PRA is not social housing. It is a project that we carry out for the council, and it's where families or individuals need temporary accommodation for a period of time. What we do at the moment is put them in sometimes can be very expensive temporary accommodation. It might not be the best places to put families in terms of hotels, in terms of hostels. This is a scheme that we deliver for the council, where it's very much trying to put people in better accommodation and at the same time to produce savings for the council against its temporary accommodation budget. So they're not social housing, it's for that purpose.
So there'll be open market rents, I guess.
I would,
So it doesn't matter. Don't worry if you don't know.
Can I come back on
yeah,
that?
That's fine.
I'm not. I think there is a lower rental, but I'm not sure exactly the legal term on which banding it is. But I will come back to you on that one. In terms of the move over to from either Cormac FM or Cornwall Housing or Cormac Highways into the facilities management company, as we've done every other move, we would be protecting people's local government pension scheme for existing employees, so they would not lose that pension as they moved over. And we've always given a commitment to that, and we've never broken that commitment in any of the transfers that we've done previously. We are looking at terms and conditions, but it's not to reduce them. Actually, some of the things that we're looking at the moment is to address some of the issues around our sick pay scheme, and that for some employees, some of the new ones, we think we need to improve that. So there might be some changes, but nobody would see terms and conditions going down as a result of that move. New employees, however, would not in that company attract local government pension scheme. They would be on the group-wide scheme, which is not part of the local government pension scheme. Now, one of the big issues and one of the reasons why we want to actually do part of this transfer, one of the reasons is there's a real challenge within Cornwall Housing Limited at the moment to actually attract tradespeople to actually have permanent jobs, because actually people, when we've tested this, people don't see LGPS as a huge issue when they go to apply for jobs. It's a shame in some ways, because obviously it's a really good scheme, but what people want is a market comparable salary. And because of that huge on cost of the local government pension scheme, if we were to pay market rates plus that, then we wouldn't be value for money for the council or tenants, because obviously other contractors would be able to do the service much cheaper. So by moving it over to the new facilities company, we are going to do a pay review as part of that. We believe we'll be able to give more market comparable salaries in the future, and therefore I think we will be able to actually employ on a permanent basis many more staff. So at the moment, Cornwall Housing has got about 60 agency staff that are tradespeople, and obviously you haven't got a resilient service there. There's quite a churn then, and it's not delivering the best service to the tenants that it possibly could be. We think that actually by moving it into this company, that's one of the things we'll be able to address is the pay and terms and conditions, and we'll be able to get staff, permanent staff into those roles instead of agency. It may be that some of those people will actually opt then to come on as full-time employees, but hopefully that gives you some of the reassurance. So can categorically say that nobody will lose their local government pension scheme as a part of a move across the group.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going now to Councillor Mould, please. Carol?
Hello, Cam. My question is around the new company and the woeful maintenance repairs that we've got around Cornwall Housing. So moving into this new company, I'm just really looking for assurances that this is actually going to tackle the backlog of maintenance that is so bad everywhere. You know, and that we might see an upturn and actually, you know, get on top of this situation.
Yeah, so absolutely. And I might say, I did discuss this with Councillor Buscombe yesterday. I might say a little bit more in the confidential session, but absolutely one of the reasons for this move is actually to deliver a better service to tenants. That's absolutely what we want to do, and to make it a really responsive, tenant-focused value for money service. One of the things that we have been doing, because this is an area of concern, people are concerned about change, but what we're doing is meeting the tenants forum, and really trying to understand how they would like to be able to engage and influence the new company, and what mechanisms we can put in place to make sure that we absolutely hear their voices. And I understand I get various emails from councillors and have discussions. At the moment, it does need to improve, and this is absolutely one of the hearts of the matter. We think by putting all of those elements together, we'll make a much more resilient service. I think we will change it into a very professional service with the right IT and the real sort of develop them and train them so they really understand compliance, but really understand customer focused delivery as well.
And if I could just come in there, Kath, you mentioned there that we're putting in new systems, and that's essential in this modern world. Management information, so to be able to track how each individual job is being looked at and how it's progressing for our customers is absolutely the way forward, and that's what we're proposing to put into this.
Thank you very much. That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Moving now to Councillor Eddy, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So firstly, I welcome the recognition of the value of social value within your business plan. Thank you for putting that in. I think it's a very important element, an element where will be a great benefit to the people of Cornwall. But you can see within on that sheet, page 36, group strategy at a glance, you can see where the money is, you can see where your profits are coming from. There's a lot of busyness going on with these other projects, a lot of new companies being set up. I want some reassurances that we're not taking our eye off where the main profits are coming from, that our business as highways and engineering and civil engineering is, as a mature business, is there. It's got the full attention that it needs in order to realise the profits that it does. So that's really my point. Some reassurance really that where most of our profits are coming from, we're still giving that our full attention. Thank you.
Kath, do you want to do that one?
Yeah, so Councillor Eddy, I can absolutely give you that assurance. Both myself, the board are absolutely committed to ensuring CORSERV and Cormac in particular are a success and that we don't lose focus. And some of the things we've done this year is absolutely to restructure the management team around Cormac. And to absolutely give it that focus and commitment. And we have put some investment in terms of the infrastructure side to make sure that it still absolutely delivers good services for Cornwall as well, because I think that's important. We've got to get service delivery right, and committed to Cornwall. But as well as that, to grow the organisation and bring back those commercial returns to the council so that they can fund additional public services with it. But absolutely committed to Cormac. But we just think there's some other opportunities in the group that can help with that dividend return as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for those reassurances. Thank you, Kath. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Going to Councillor Fitter now, please. John Fitter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with your permission, sir, I'd like to ask Kath just to go back on something, just to reassure, I think, the members. I refer to paragraph 75, which was picked up by Councillor Harris, and it was basically the last part of bullet point 3, enhanced focus on property strategy. That directly employed property experts led to a significant improvement over the last year. I suspect that isn't put in any way as a criticism of Cornwall Council's property services people who have been managing quite both sides of sort of the fence, so to speak. And I think probably it means to say that there is a more concentrated and direct oversight of the air zone site, which was not quite as possible with the property services. So there was no deficiency over the way property services were managing the assets up at Cornwall Airport, Newquay. It was possibly that we have a more direct insight. And of course, your confirmation, Kath, that property services are still very much involved at this moment of time anyway, over dealing with the Aero Hub element down on where we have the plots for sale, etc.
Yes, so I can confirm that, John, and I think hopefully I gave reassurance about the capacity in the council, and it was a focused, having that post was a focus on the Newquay Airport estate.
Yeah, thank you. So I reassure members through the chairman that we have every faith and confidence in Cornwall Property Services and will continue to do in the future. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Moving now to Stephen Rushworth.
Thank you, Richard. Kath, most of the work that you do is easily visible from the public. So I've got a very simple question. How do you currently monitor productivity? And in your business plan, are you going to set new targets that the outcomes can be measured?
So at the moment, we have got a system where we are measuring productivity, particularly in Cormac, and that is around highways and engineering staff and around their gangs. So the managers of individual gangs can see how they compare to other gangs across Cormac and to see how their productivity varies and can understand where those differences are, whether it be labour, material, length of time, tasks, similar tasks take. And what we try and do is, that's not sort of a blame culture piece. What we try and do is bring people together so that they can discuss that and learn from each other as well. It's been quite useful over the last couple of years. We've had new people join the organisation, brought new commercial skills, and some of those impacts on some of the working practices have been quite interesting, and then they've been able to share that across the group. What we've also looking at is now starting to introduce that into our care division as well. That may seem a bit harsh, but actually it's not about the individuals. What we're trying to do is the productivity of the service, looking at downtime, looking about investment in computer systems so we can get more effective rostering around Cornwall, so that we're not, we've got the most efficient way of actually using our care teams and in terms of geographical areas. So that's an area we are developing, and certainly the investment in the new field service management will not just be in care, it will also be in the facilities management, but also Cormac will use that as well. So we're really trying to drive efficiency and productivity across the group.
Yeah. If I could just come in there, Councillor Rushworth, I've mentioned about getting the right information out of our businesses, and it's absolutely key so we can look at our efficiencies and the service we provide. So Phil set out at the beginning that we've set some money aside to update our systems to provide just that information, and information is absolutely key. Data is key in this world, and that's what we're intending to do. So it allows us to give us the information and the data to make the whole service more efficient and better for our customers. And that goes in Cormac, it goes in care, and it will go into FM, and it goes into CHL. Goes everywhere basically, and that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowden, please. Neil?
Yes, two things really. One, to support Councillor Mould on housing. Housing has been failed in the unitary big time, and members have been distanced to the extreme from even challenging or questioning housing. As you know, Cornwall Housing declared that they didn't own a house in my local village and it was empty for months, and then realised they owned it, you know, and it seems gross inefficiency. But if you challenge housing, they get very upset and just don't have anything to do with the member. And I do think you need to use your members because they've got the local knowledge. They know if somebody's property, you know, they've got leaking water or something like that, and the tenant can't cope with it. And I just think that, you know, keep your members on board, because, and then page 61, it says our performance across the board will continue to improve. Well, it can't go any worse, can it? And I mean, and perhaps you'll talk more about that on the pink papers, but I do think that the housing side has been abysmal. And then temporary housing to put people into somewhere without any cooking facilities, I think is criminal, really. I really do. I think it's so sad. You know, people at Christmas were put into places and they couldn't even cook a meal. They just had to do kettle food or whatever. And I just feel so sad because we're doing it. It's us. And then back to Peter. You may want to comment that or in pink papers. You said it's very ambitious. And that jumped at me when I read the document, you know, that you're thinking you're going to do a lot more trading. And yet in another place it says that it's very risky, and you know, and I think that we're not quite sure where we're going as a country or as a world in a way. You know, is everything going to be dumbed down? And I just feel that looking at the council as a sugar daddy or a very rich uncle is a bit dangerous, really. Oh, well, we can always go back to the council and get a bit more money. You know, that's not real business, not real business at all. And I just feel that, you know, I don't like that at all. I think that's dangerous ground, really. And I just feel that, you know, you need to actually get this thing going if you're really serious about it. And there are huge challenges in the coming few years over actual finance anywhere, and also business. And I mean, it's amazing how people have found that they can live cheaper during the pandemic than they could before. And so therefore, you know, because, you know, 30% of the population is better off at the moment, but they aren't going to spend money because, of course, interest rates, anything invested can return anything. So I just think that be careful, and I think that you are over ambitious and making those promises, as in on page, sorry, is it page 56? I'm not quite sure. There's so many pages, but I just think that you had these very ambitious results. Oh, we're going to do more and more. It's page 34, sorry, up 41% in 5 years. I think that is a little bit too enthusiastic, because I don't think you do it. And therefore, be more real and not try and come back to the council for more money every so often. Thank you.
So, Kath, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, I can come in a bit on that. So, Neil, I'm not sure. We're not coming back to the council for more money. What we've got here is a plan that will give the council over £30 million over the next 4 years, which is a huge sum and would go a significant way to funding quite critical services in the council. So we don't see you as a sugar daddy. I won't make any more comments about that in terms of yourself, but we certainly, on a serious note, we certainly don't see the council as a sugar daddy. We're not asking for funding here. We may come at certain points with business cases in terms of investment, but that's when we will have a proven case. And if the council doesn't want us to do that through their own mechanisms and gain on interest rates, we would be happy to actually do that with the external market if that would be a preference. But then obviously you would lose the interest. But I think it's really important to say that we don't see you as giving us anything. We're returning a huge amount of money to the council through the work that we do. In terms of the loan facility, we are very restricted about the amount of money that we can keep in the group of companies. We're not like a normal business. We pass the majority of our funding back to you through our dividend process. So we don't build up a huge amount of reserves so that we can use them for investment. What we asked for in terms of the loan was just to have that facility if, for example, if we have COVID again and we have to close down the business or whatever, we've got a bit of a safety net. As part of that, we
excuse me, Kath, apologies for interrupting again. It's Tracy Clark, Democratic and Governance Officer. I've just been advised that there may be another issue with the live stream link. So apologies for that. If you could please just mute microphones again and stop cameras for a moment, and we'll come back to you as soon as possible.
You're muted, Richard.
Oh, yes, sorry. If we could mute our microphones and cameras, please, members. Thank you very much.
Chairman, apologies for that. Tracy Clark, Democratic and Governance Officer. I've got confirmation that you can proceed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So members, we'll proceed if we may. I think we left it that Corsa respond to some of the issues raised by Councillor Bowden. So if we could just pick up from there, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'll probably just give the answer complete so that it's not sort of partly heard a while ago. So can absolutely fundamentally say that we do not look for bailouts from the council or see it as a sugar daddy. To clarify, over £30 million will be returned to the council over the next 4 years as part of our business plan, which is a huge amount of money that funds public services in Cornwall. As you know, our financial model doesn't let us build up significant amount of reserves. It's because actually we give all the money back to the council. So on occasion, with a really sound business case, we may seek to have a loan from the council in order to invest and drive business forward. This is only where we've got business cases that clearly demonstrate that the profit exceeds those loan repayments and the cost of running the service, and that it is true growth for the companies. That also means that Cornwall Council gains from the interest rates, just as it does with the Travath model. You make money out of the loans that you make, that you give to us. So that actually is, again, a positive return to the council. Should the council not want us to do that in the future, we believe that we have got really good commercial business cases, and we would be happy to seek funding from the external market if the council no longer wants to take that perceived risk. We do think it's an ambitious plan, but it's not something that we've put together on the back of a fag packet. As the chairman said, we've been working on this for over a year now, and this is based on building the growth that we have been successful in achieving, particularly around Cormac, particularly in Devon, particularly in Torbay, and with third parties. So we're confident that whilst it's ambitious, it is deliverable. Thank you.
So if I could just come in there as well, if I may, Chair.
Yes, please do.
Just to confirm this is not a normal company. So we run on very tight cash retention, and as Kath said, it goes back to the council. Also, we don't have a facility to borrow off other externally at this moment in time. So if we need to do any expansion in the business which requires borrowing, we come back to the council to do that with a business case, as Kath said, and that most normal businesses will have some form of borrowing over their time pillars that they look to expand. Ours is just we come back to the council for approval to do what we want to do, but to also act as a bank, and you provide that facility and you get the interest from it. And finally, if you asked me whether we were being over ambitious, from my perspective, not. As Kath said, we've done a lot of work on this, and we are here to grow, and we're here to grow the return back to the council. So the vast majority of this growth in this business plan is from Cormac externally. We've got about 30 odd million quid of additional revenue coming in from Cormac externally, and we're on that road. We are already, we've just picked up a couple of contracts in Devon in the last couple of months, and that will continue. Our work in Devon is well appreciated, and we will push that further. We're actually looking to open up a little depot in Devon so that we can push that push into Devon further. But can I also reassure all members that this is not done at the detriment for anything we do in Cornwall. This is additional capacity that we've got in those areas, and it is purely to drive a better return back to Cornwall through cash dividends over time. So whilst it's ambitious, I think it's eminently achievable. I cannot I cannot say anything about where the market's going to go in the future, and we will have to deal with those as and when. But you've heard from the government that the infrastructure is still key in the plan, and we believe that we should be ambitious enough to see if we can take our element of that plan. I hope that gives you that reassurance.
Can I just say thank you for that response? But obviously, if we kept these delivery services within house, there would be savings as well. So I don't think it's all one-sided. But anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got Armin Toms now, please.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kath, you'll know that I've spoken to you previously on this issue about the maintenance of our properties. It's been highlighted, with other things that I've found within the council, there are lack of maintenance, and the papers actually show that we've had to bring somebody in to do this to help out. My thing is, can I be assured that a regular check on all properties is carried out, that we have a list from those checks that whatever needs doing, the repairs and all that are made, so that this committee can look at it and say, you've had 20 houses that needed new kitchens or whatever it is, to come here and say, this is a lot of money and we need to address those issues, with the gardens and all the rest of it. And it leads me to believe that, some years ago there was a fire in Bodmin, and a lady died, and it was a bit of a hoarding from what I've been told and what was been made public. And if we had done those checks, perhaps that might not have happened. I just believe that we need to be very clear on what we're going to do with this new management of the maintenance of properties, because it is a major issue. And the other thing is container housing. I spoke with the people at Cornwall Housing probably nearly 4 years ago now about container housing, and nothing really has happened until this pandemic, when lo and behold we used them for those homeless people, and they've proven to be very, very popular with those people, because it gets them off the street, it keeps them warm, and it gets them housed. Is that something that the housing group is going to take forward, because it's low cost, low tech, but very efficient? Thank you.
Thank you, Armand. And we have had several conversations, haven't we, over recent months in terms of some of the challenges that tenants are having. What I would like to do is to just sort of give a bit more information in the confidential session, and some of the things that we're doing with regard to that, if that's okay. In terms of container housing for the homes, that has been a really good success. I've visited there, I've met some of the people as well, and can really see the benefit. And some people have been able to access support and that, which has meant that they've then gone on to actually live and be able to live in and get more normal accommodation and actually even jobs. So that's been a fantastic success. Obviously that's a project that we work very closely with the council to deliver, and would be absolutely happy to work with them in the future on any future schemes. And I believe we're looking at where sort of the next ones could be placed, and that work is underway with the council's housing team as well. But I'll come into, we can talk a bit more detail under the commercial section. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Councillor Monk, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just like to go back to Councillor Burnham's point. I think he makes a valid point in the business expansion. I mean, I always feel that you should only really try to expand the business when you've got the existing structures and the existing sections and parts of your business as efficient as and effective as you possibly can. And I wonder if we've actually reached that point within the actual business structure itself. And when I look at how much profit's being generated from each individual part, it's not apart from the main service bits. It doesn't seem to be generating too much profit. And again, I wonder and I worry about the profits that are generated, and I wonder if they are being generated at the expense of the Cornish council taxpayer, because we're awarding Cormac the contract in the first place, and they always seem to charge 20% more than the going rate or the market rate. So in effect, although I take Kath's point that they don't look at us as a sugar daddies, I just wonder if we're on some sort of merry-go-round in effect, where we're paying, or we're always constantly paying more than the market rate for services that we could achieve more cheaply, and it's the Cornwall council taxpayer who's generating the money to pay the bills that then comes back to us in the form of profits. So that's what I sort of worry about happening with the whole sort of Cormac sort of CASSOSC group. But yeah, with the expansion, I'm very cautious about it, because I often wonder if we've achieved maximum efficiency and effectiveness of the existing part of CASSOSC. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for those questions. Obviously, like any organisation, we strive to continuously improve, and we've done a lot to drive our productivity and efficiency across the group. And particularly in Cormac, and we do feel it's the right time to expand Cormac. There's very different companies within the group, and they're not all profit making, and I think that's a really good point to for people to understand. So we do not make a profit from the large turnover in Cornwall Housing. It's a social housing company, and its value is social value. It's not profit generating. So if you took that number out, then it looks very sort of different. CDC likewise do not make profits. They've got majority of the work is done for the council at this point in time, and they're done on the basis of cost recovery. They're not done on the basis of profit generation. It might be in the future that we can do consultancy that does make a return, but at the moment, both of those companies are more sort of social value and what it could add to Cornwall and Cornwall Council rather than profit generating. So in the plan, you'll see that we're concentrating really on Cormac, on the care company, and on the facilities management company in order to drive growth and to drive return. All of those companies are obviously in different stages of maturity as well. So I've talked about some of the things we're doing in terms of investing in computer systems to really sort of drive efficiency and productivity. I think I explained some of that to Councillor Rushworth. I think that the statement that Cormac is 20% more expensive for every job, I don't know exactly where you've got the evidence from that. The commercial services team in the council test Cormac's value for money. They have had independent assessments. For example, there was a review where the schedule of rates was obtained from Devon, who actually had gone out to a competitive tendering process and appointed Scanser. Cormac's rates compared well to Scanser's, so there was no evidence that it was 20% higher than that being experienced with other contractors. For individual projects, the commercial services team employ independent cost consultants to test our prices compared to the market. And obviously at different schemes, we will be slightly different margins, costs, etc. But they have not found that we are out of kilter with the market. So I think you can get quite a lot of insurance that the council regularly tests Cormac's prices. And the other thing is we also actually tender for quite a lot of work, both within Cornwall and Cornwall Council, but also with other councils where we're working with them. It's completely on an open tendering process. And also when we do work for, say, Highways England or the big firms, tier 1 firms that we sometimes do subcontract work. So I don't believe that we're 20% over for every piece of work that we do for the council.
Can I come back, Chair?
Will we come back on that, Councillor Mann, quickly? Yes.
I guess with the housing and the CDC, it's finding an acceptable way of measuring that value, isn't it? Where that we can clearly see where that value is in what you're offering. With regards to the evidence, Kath, it's not just 20%. It's whenever I've been involved with projects that our town council has decided to proceed on. Obviously, we use Cormac to go out to tender and get prices for, be it a play park, be it any sort of open space type work, anything like that. Inevitably, Cormac are at least 20%, if not more, in plenty of cases, more expensive. So that's where I've got the evidence from. I know it's a bit parochial, but there is 3 or 4 examples that I could show you if you wanted, where it's at least. I'm using that. I'm being sort of trying to be generous, really, 20%. But my experience is that it's at least 20%. A lot of it may be that Cormac don't want the work, and they want some private people to get it. But I have seen examples of 20 and more, so that's where I've got that from. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm more than happy to have a look at those with you and see if there is something that in a particular instance, whether it's community work or whatever, if there's something behind that, I'm more than happy if you can share that with me to look at that. In terms of measuring social value, what we're introducing in the group is the TOMS methodology, which is a sort of national recognised methodology for measuring social value. It looks at all sort of aspects of social value, whether it's through procurement, through volunteering, through the whole sort of gamut, because we recognise that actually we've got to have a robust and way of measuring social value, and that we can report to the council, but also to our public, and also when we go out to tendering. So we're starting to introduce that now. It's quite a major piece of work, but it's something that I think will be good in the future, because we'll absolutely be able to demonstrate that through a consistent methodology.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to Councillor Biggs now, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman, and welcome to your last meeting. Yes, it's been 4 years and it's gone by very quickly, hasn't it? A couple of quick questions, if I might, please. First of all, one to you, Chairman, as you've been sat there doing nothing very much for the last hour. The recommendations that we've got are recommendations to the leader, and I wonder why that is the case, because my recollection from March 2019 was that we make recommendations to the cabinet, and I'm generally not in favour of dictatorships, however benign or merciful, and I think and I would expect this to go to cabinet rather than the leader, but there again, perhaps somebody can answer that one. One for Mr. Andrew, I think. Data management, data analysis, yes, very important. I think that's something which we've all come to recognise in Cornwall Council as well. That's definitely shooting up the agenda. I hope that at some point the data sets which you create will also be available for open data publication. But specifically, if you're really serious about this, could you tell me where your Chief Information Officer sits in relation to the main board?
I think that's an important one. That's a very quick one. I'm sure you can answer that quite quickly. If I could come back to the main business plan, my esteemed colleague, the member for Stoke Climsland, always makes a good point, I think. Some of the risks which you have in the business plan, I would accept are generic. I mean, there's just general risk which we all face in the future. Some of them, I suspect, are driven from the aspirations of Cornwall Council, and I'd like to try and get a feel for how much impact on your risks are driven from the stakeholder that we're actually driving those risks, and what would the business plan look like if we weren't driving that? I'm asking you very obliquely, I suppose, how much interference you get from Cornwall Council. And you're amongst friends here, so you can answer it quite freely. And the live stream has probably failed again anyway, so don't worry about that. Okay, thank you.
Shall I come back on at least one of those? And that's about the data point. So I'm very pleased you agree with us that data is absolutely what we need to be able to run an efficient company and understand how we can get better. So we don't have a CTO, a Chief Technical Officer as such. We have a combined role in our organisation, and the person who is responsible for our systems, if you like, sits with the board but isn't a member of the board, if that makes sense. But he attends every board meeting. So systems is right up with the board in every sense, and we take a look at it. We take a look at it every month. With regards to the risks, I think actually, Kath, you're probably better placed to deal with that one than me.
Thank you. So I'm just pondering really how different it would look. I'm not sure if it would look that different actually. I think we've got an excellent board now with a whole range of skills across all of our businesses, and we've really taken a lot of thought to put this strategy together, and having that expertise from different commercial sectors has really helped us, I think, that to challenge us and be that critical friend. So I'm not sure if it would look significantly different, the business plan. But sort of going on, I don't think interference is the right word that I would suggest. What I would suggest is that we're a tackle company, and therefore the relationship is very different than you have with a third party contractor. And you're obviously 100% shareholder as well, and therefore an owner of the company. And also significantly, you are our main commissioner at this point. So there are various levels of reporting that we do into the council, and various levels of authority and sign off that we have to have in order to fill the sort of commissioner, the partnership, the shareholder or the tackle company sort of issues really. So that's why we probably have what you term more interference than just a normal contractor would, because we've got many complex relationships with the council in its various forms.
Can I come in there, Kath? From just to add a bit of colour to that, because I'm not an officer of the company, I'm a non-exec, and I chair a number of other different companies. There's no doubt that this company, being a tackle company, has more interaction with its shareholders or its shareholder than any other company that I'm involved in, and that revolves around the articles that are put in place, which are quite normal for a tackle company. So there is more interaction than a normal commercial company. But within that, from a risk perspective, the risks, the way we look at risk as a board is exactly the same as any other company. So we assess risk for every different facet of our business, and then make our decisions and look at our business plans based on those. And every business has to take risk, otherwise it can't be in business. It's got to take risk. So we have to govern that and look at that with market inputs and the like. So we think we've looked at that really carefully for this business plan, and where we think the risks are right to take, we'll look at them. I'll give you an example. So whilst the care homes, which we mentioned that we would like to develop, they're not in this business plan. The numbers of those aren't in this business plan because we haven't got approval to it. But there's an element of risk if we want to move forward on doing care homes. But we think that is balanced by the opportunity, and it's opportunity and risk, and that's what we look at. And we'll look at it as we go forward. So I don't think there's any more risks here than in a normal business, but there is a bit more oversight. Let's put it that way, from without a doubt from the shareholder. And just to come on to what Kath mentioned, I haven't really discussed it, but we have changed our board in the last 6 months, or 6 to 7 months. We put 3 new NEDs into our board back in the autumn, and we did that because we knew where we were heading with this business plan, and we wanted specific skills onto the board to be able to help us drive the efficiencies and the sustainability of the plan and of those businesses. So we've got somebody in care, we've got somebody in highways, we've got somebody in the airlines industry, and we've got the new chair of CHL. So we believe we've got a very, very strong governance structure that I assure you looks at risk in a very honest way, both commercial risk and other risk. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just say, Kath was as diplomatic as ever. Your years on Cornwall Council weren't wasted.
Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And can I just say to Councillor Biggs, we'll get an answer to you on the structure of the recommendations by the time we've come out of part 2. Now I've got Councillor Barnes now, please.
I'm happy to answer, Leader.
Oh, okay.
Chair.
Councillor German to answer the question on the structure of the recommendations. Thank you.
The question that I had Councillor Biggs asked was why was it being dealt with under a leader decision, and a couple of answers to that. It can be under our constitution. There's no reason for it to be dealt with in any other way, but also the timing of this meeting and Cabinet. Obviously we've got Cabinet tomorrow. We're on Tuesday, aren't we? Busy times. And so being able to assimilate the information from Scrutiny before taking the decision didn't fit in well with the Cabinet timetable. So we're taking them as leader decisions. That's an open and democratic process. That's why we're here discussing the decisions, and I'm here listening to your deliberations. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going to Councillor Barnes now, please.
Richard, could I come in just as Chairman of the Shareholder Board, just to comment to the governance issue?
Yeah, please. Okay.
Yeah, just to be brief. Again, as members may or may not know, I'm Chairman of the Council Shareholder Board, which comprises myself as Chairman, the Leader, and 2 senior Council execs. Clearly, our overview role is very much to consider the strategy, risk and financial return. When you go back a few years, as possibly 1 or 2 members will remember, it was a very informal arrangement indeed, in terms of 1 or 2 officers at the council talking to 2 guys in Cormac. Was this the way to go forward? Yes, they say, get on with it. Now we've got a much more rigorous structure. We have a formal commissioner arrangement. We obviously have the board of CASSOSC, and then there's the shareholder board that meets it together. I think we've just about got the balance right.
in terms of allowing CASSOSC to get on with things, to demonstrate what they can do from a commercial and also social perspective. But clearly there is the oversight at a member level. I think we've got it right, but it's taken, frankly, some years to get there. And the early days really were quite horrific in my view. That's all I want to say just now, Chairman, just to provide a perspective for things.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. And now I'm going to move to Councillor Stephen Barnes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. And may I wish you a long and happy retirement.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
My question, I suppose, is to Kath, is what percentage of contracts allocated to Cormac are sublet to outside contractors?
That is a very good question, and I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that, and I could find out. Sometimes we do use a subcontractor to fulfill a whole job, but quite often we have them working alongside our teams. They might be bringing additional expertise or technical skills, and so we use them to support our own teams. But I will get back to you on that if that's okay, and I'll copy in the Scrutiny Committee in terms of my response to you, so that they all know that. So sorry, I couldn't answer that today.
So Kath, do you know, just to move on, do you know how much of Cormac's work goes to contractors within Cornwall?
So in terms of across the group, our spend, 71% of that is retained in Cornwall. Some things we can't buy in Cornwall. So for example, the salt that we put down on the roads, and there aren't some firms in terms of white lining or surface dressing. So sometimes there aren't the options to spend that money locally. But where we can, we work with SMEs, sole traders, to try and develop those relationships and get them onto our framework so that we can use them. And in the plan, you'll see that we're trying to drive that up from 71% to 80% over the life of the business plan.
Is that okay, Councillor Barnes? Kath will write to you on your first question and copy us all in.
Yes, that's ideal. I'm only here to ask good questions.
You cut me out.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
I got my backup here today. Got Benji with me.
All right.
My daughter's dumped him in on me, and she's gone off to do an online lecture.
Oh,
thank you very much for that. Thank you. Now, I've exhausted all the ticks in the box, but I've got 3 councillors that wanted to ask questions that were of a sort of confidential nature. So I'm going to propose now that we move to confidential status in our agenda. Is that seconded by anyone, please? Seconded to move to part 2, please.
Yes.
Councillor Burns.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I hand over now to the Democratic Services Officer, Tracy, would you like to take us through the procedure, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Tracy Clark, Democratic and Governance Officer. So the proposal is that the press and public be excluded from the meeting on the grounds that there is likely to be a disclosure to the public of exempt information under Category 3, information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. So that's been proposed by Councillor Buscombe and seconded by Councillor Burden. So I will move to the vote, but to save time having to go through twice, when I ask committee members for their vote, please could you also confirm that there is nobody else present with you who is not entitled to hear or see the proceedings, because we're entering part 2, and that would save me time having to go back through that again, please. So Councillor Etherfold.
For, and I'm home alone.
Thank you. Councillor Barnes.
Well, I'm going to abstain on this one because I wanted to ask a question of, are we going to be in and out of part 2 throughout the rest of this meeting? Because I consider that will be detrimental to the public engaging in watching this meeting if there are any members of the public watching. And I think you should keep everything to, if you're going to have a part 2, just have one part 2 and deal with everything, rather than tripping up democracy. And apart from the dog, it's just me here.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. I can confirm that the plan is to offer the opportunity to go into part 2 twice during the meeting, which is once for this item and once for the Treveth item, because there are pink papers included for both those items, but not more than that, hopefully. Councillor Biggs.
Yes, 4, I'm alone.
Councillor Burden.
I'm alone. 4.
Councillor Buscombe.
4 and I'm alone.
Councillor Eddy.
4 and I'm alone.
Councillor Fitter. Councillor Fitter. We'll come back to Councillor Fitter. Councillor Frost.
4 and I'm alone with the door shut.
Thank you. Councillor Harris.
4, I'm alone. Does anybody else really want to listen to this? Thank you.
Councillor Hawkins.
4 and alone.
Councillor Keeling.
4 and I've only got the dogs here for company.
Councillor Monk.
4 and alone.
Councillor Moorcroft.
4 and alone.
Councillor Mould.
4 and alone.
Councillor Toms.
4 and alone.
Going back to Councillor Fitter. No. Okay, Chairman, I can confirm that that's been carried, that we move into part 2. I will ask Joe, our producer for the meeting, to arrange for the live stream to be paused. And while she's doing that, I also need to go through and check everybody else present on the meeting is entitled to be there and that they are alone. So I'll continue with that. So if I just go to the list of participants. Okay, Councillor Painter, could you confirm please that you're alone? Councillor Painter?
Yes, I am here and I'm alone.
Thank you. Ben Rom?
Oh yeah, I'm here alone.
Thank you. Kath Robinson?
Yes, I'm here and I'm alone.
Thank you. Moving down, Councillor Ekin-Smythe?
Hello.
Hello.
You can hear me.
Could you confirm you're alone, please?
Yes, I'm alone.
Thank you. Moving down, Councillor Kirkham.
Sorry, I was trying to multitask. Yes, I'm here and I'm alone.
And
Chairman, it's Jo Heather, Democratic and Governance Officer. Just to confirm that I am making arrangements for the live stream to be unpaused and resumed. It should be with us any moment, I think. Chairman, I can confirm that the live stream is now back on and you're live.
Thank you very much indeed for that. So members, we're now back on live stream, and as I mentioned a few moments ago, I would like to now turn to the recommendations which are on page 20 of the report, and to move things along. I'll propose those recommendations. Now, I don't know if there's a seconder, and I don't know if anyone wishes to propose any amendments, but I'll propose the recommendations as they stand, just to sort of move things forward.
I'd be happy to second you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So I've got a proposer and I've got a seconder now, Councillor Eddy. I see Councillor Burden also. So my question to the committee is, does anyone wish to propose an amendment?
Mine wasn't to second it. It was to ask the question, rather than approve, should it be noted? Because I think we're putting ourselves on a high pedestal if we approved, because I think there's been many questions asked, and I think that whether we should be, whether the committee wants to note rather than approve is the question.
Right. Okay. So I proposed and Councillor Eddy seconded. Do you wish to propose an amendment, Neil? That I guess in recommendation 1 and 2 we substitute approved. Substitute noted for approved. Do you want to just sort of flesh that out as to what that would mean, and whether or not you would have a seconder for that?
Yeah, no, I just feel that, personally, I just feel that the thing like the airport and that and all that, I mean, we're not approving a loss, are we? We're noting that there will be a loss and carry on from that. And I just wondered if other members are happy with approve or noted, really. I'm quite happy to move noted, but if nobody wants to support that, that's fine. I have no issues.
No, okay, we've got
I'm quite happy to support Councillor Burden.
Yeah. Right, okay. Tracy Clark, please, do you wish to give us some procedural advice?
Yes, please, Chairman. Tracy Clark, Democratic and Governance Officer. I'd just like to say that the recommendations are prefaced recommendation for individual decision by the leader. So it's recommending to the leader that he approves it. So if you just change number 1 and 2 to noted, you'll be recommending to the leader that he notes it, which probably doesn't make much sense. So you may wish to have an additional recommendation before the recommendations to the leader that the business plans are noted, and then you may wish to reconsider the recommendations that you're making to the leader.
Oh, I see. So you have, yeah, that's interesting. Perhaps we ought to ask the leader what he thinks. I just feel that we're telling the leader he has to approve the recommendations, or he has to reconsider them, or keep his try.
Councillor Burden, as the recommendations are set out, they're being made to the leader. So you could change it and have them as recommendations. In other words, for the committee to say that they're noted, and then consider what actual recommendations that you want to make to the leader for individual decision.
I'll let somebody else speak.
Yes.
Others want to speak now.
Neil, yes, I was just going to say, Neil, do you want to just think about that while I go to Councillor Barnes, and then Councillor Biggs. Councillor Barnes, please, on this.
Yes. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I don't think it makes much difference because the leader is going to make these decisions anyway. I think we can say that we've noted the recommendations to the leader, because he'll probably, it doesn't matter if we said we don't think you should do any of these, he's going to do them anyway. So I think we should just note what the recommendations are. I don't know who's actually put those recommendations there. We can say that we note the recommendations to the leader, because I think he's going to do them anyway. So it's almost like an academic thing, really. But instead of us saying, yes, we agree with you, we can say, yes, we note what you're going to do. And I think that's the biggest difference. Otherwise, we're saying that we support all the decisions by the leader, and I'm sure we don't.
Okay, just hold that thought. Will I go to Councillor Biggs?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We are a scrutiny committee. We make recommendations, or we could choose not to make recommendations. So I would suggest we don't make any recommendations. There's no reason why we have to.
Okay. Okay, Martin Eddy.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I simply recall, as we kind of set out on this journey as this committee, that noting reports was kind of nugatory activity, really. If you just wanted to note a report, well, you might as well take it home and read it and not have the committee meeting, and we could have done away with 3 hours of our lives, Chairman. You know, you want to do some business. You don't just want to sit around noting stuff all day long, Chairman. It just seems to me that I can note stuff. I can sit at home and note. You know, what have we achieved over the last 3 hours if it's not these recommendations? Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. John Fitto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that, you know, I agree entirely with Councillor Barnes, but we should approve the recommendations. As I said, it's an excellent report. The officers have explained it very well to us. They've been very full in all their explanations. I found it a really beneficial report and the question and answer session. And I believe now we should now recommend and pass the recommendations as set out. We shouldn't start to sort of cherry pick what has been put in front of us in the way we approve what has been set out. So I think we should now move on, go to the vote and vote on the recommendations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for that. Well, what I think I will do is that I propose these recommendations. Councillor Eddy has seconded them. I think I'll put that to the vote, because either that will be approved or it won't be. And if it's not approved, then I think we then will let it lie on the table, and we'll be in the sort of a position that Councillor Biggs referred to. So to sort of, you know, move things forward, I'll put that to the vote that myself and Councillor Eddy have proposed. Now I've got a message. Councillor Byrne proposed an amendment. Yes, sorry. Right, yes. Councillor Byrne proposed an amendment that number 1 and number 2 get noted as opposed to approved. Is there a seconder for that, please?
I'll withdraw.
Well, okay, Neil's going to withdraw now. So again, I'll put the recommendations as they stand to the vote, and they'll either sort of be approved or they'll fail, and then we can sort of leave that on the table.
Chair, sorry, David Harris, may I interrupt you? I have a problem, because I'm quite happy with 1, 2 and 3, but I think 4 is wrong. Now I don't know whether we can. I'd be quite happy to say, look, okay, I'll vote in favour of the recommendation, provided the minutes can be clear that I don't believe doing what's set out in 4 is correct. The alternative, which is more long-winded, is to have 2 different votes on 1, 2 and 3 and 4. I leave that entirely up to you, sir. But if we can be clear in the minutes that I don't think 4 is the correct way to go, merging all the companies, then let's just get on with it.
Right, okay. So you are sort of, David Harris, you're also proposing an amendment that we take the first 3 separately. Is that what you're saying?
I would prefer to do that if we can get on with it and do it quickly and not spend any more time on it. I'm hungry.
Yeah, I think I would second that too. But I'm still going to put the first proposal to the vote, okay? And then if that fails, someone want to come forward and say that we have an amendment that passes the first 3 but rejects the 4th one. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So I'm going to hand over to the Democratic Services Officer and to take the vote which is on the table, which is recommendations as they stand, proposed by Councillor Buscombe, seconded by Councillor Eddy. Democratic Services Officer, over to you to conduct the vote.
Thank you, Chairman. I think procedurally, as Councillor Harris has put forward that amendment, should we ask, I think, for a seconder to that amendment? And if so, then we need to vote on the amendment first.
Right, okay. So
which is to take those two separately in the vote.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. So Councillor, is there a seconder for Councillor Harris's amendment that we take the vote?
Yes, yes, Richard. It's Carol. I'm happy to second.
Councillor Mould. Back to Democratic Services Officer, that amendment first, and you just might want to check the wording with Councillor Harris, Tracy. But I'll leave you to to vote on the amendment first.
Thank you, Chairman. I think the proposal is that you vote on recommendations 1, 2 and 3 en bloc, and then vote on recommendation 4 separately. Is that correct, Councillor Harris?
It is indeed, thank you.
And Councillor Mould, you're happy still to second that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so voting on whether to take recommendations 1, 2 and 3. So this isn't voting on the recommendations, this is just on whether to take 1, 2 and 3 first and then 4 separately. So Councillor Atherfold.
For.
Councillor Barnes. Councillor Barnes.
Against.
Councillor Biggs.
For.
Councillor Burden.
For.
Councillor Buscombe.
Against.
Councillor Eddy.
Against.
Councillor Fitter.
Against.
Councillor Frost.
Against.
Councillor Harris.
For.
Councillor Hawkins.
Against.
Councillor Keeling.
Against.
Councillor Monk. Councillor Monk. Councillor Moorcroft.
Against.
Councillor Mould.
Sorry, 4.
Councillor Toms.
4.
And going back to Councillor Monk. No, he's not on call, I think, at the moment, so I can confirm there are 8 against and 6 for. So that's been lost. So we go back to the substantive proposal, which was for the recommendations as set out on page 20, which was proposed by Councillor Buscombe and seconded by Councillor Eddy. And so Councillor Atherfold.
For.
Councillor Barnes. Councillor Barnes.
For.
Councillor Biggs.
Against.
Councillor Burden.
For.
Councillor Buscombe.
For.
Councillor Eddy.
For.
Councillor Fitter.
For.
Councillor Frost.
For.
Councillor Harris.
Abstain.
Councillor Hawkins.
For.
Councillor Keeling.
Abstain.
Councillor Monk. Councillor Moorcroft.
For.
Councillor Mould.
Against.
Councillor Toms.
4.
Chairman, I can confirm that that's 10 for, 2 against and 2 abstentions. So that motion's carried.
Thank you very much indeed for that, members. That was a good discussion. And as I said previously, I intend to break now for lunch. The time in Padstow is 1:05. So how about resuming at 1:25 to 2? Is that okay with everyone? So half an hour break. I think we've deserved it. Thank you very much indeed. And Tracy, we need to switch our microphones and cameras off.
Yes, please, Chairman, if you can switch your microphones and cameras off, but stay on this meeting because it will resume on this meeting afterwards, and we'll put a message up for the public, and we'll be back on the same live stream between when you resume and 2 o'clock, when we'll have to change the live stream.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Chairman, can I just add something?
Yeah, please do.
My wife has broken her finger, and I
Oh,
must take her to the fracture hospital to
okay.
get it fixed.
Okay.
You know, I'm sorry about that, but
No,
it's
give her our best wishes.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So resume at 25 to 2, members. Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Well, good afternoon, members. I hope you're all suitably refreshed after our lunch break. I'd like to continue the meeting now, please, by turning to item 7 on the agenda, which is the Treveth 1 and 4 years business plans for 2021-2025. And I'm going to go first of all to Councillor Mike Ethorne-Givens, who's the portfolio holder. So, Mike, would you like to introduce item 7, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll make a few brief points, essentially just 4 of them. Firstly, as you can see from the business plan, there is the proposed development of a portfolio of assets valued at the end of the 44-year period of some 400 million. Meanwhile, in the forthcoming years, it is anticipated when increasing annual net return to the council in total of some 18 million. In order to achieve this sum, and as set out on page 128 of members' papers, this will require a little under 300 million investment from the council. This approach is something I support. Secondly, it is proposed to transfer from the council to Treveth a number of commercial assets as set out in Appendix 6, as it is considered the company has the expertise to add value to elements of the existing portfolio. This does bring to the question, of course, the future of the council's remaining commercial assets. This and other matters, including those highlighted by the Grant Thornton report, including operational commercial freedoms for Treveth, were considered by the Council Property Working Group, which I mentioned earlier under the course of agenda item. Thirdly, as you can see from the papers, it is proposed to establish a new subsidiary entity for the legacy housing schemes inherited from Cornwall Council and a new commercial entity to hold and manage commercial assets. This makes sense. Fourth and finally, the business plan sees Treveth being involved in the PIDAR regeneration, in the Cornwall Council operational estate transformation, assisting the council in the development of the High Street through the town fund, and possible investment in renewables with input from the council's climate team. Clearly more work needs to be done in these areas, but the intention is one I welcome. Chairman, that's all I want to say by way of introduction, and I now ask the defence team to comment further.
Thank you very much indeed for that, Mike. That's very helpful. I don't know if Councillor Brown can hear me, but you've got your camera on. Yes, so who are we going to next? Is Phil May? No.
Tim Mulholland, probably.
Tim, we'd like to.
It's actually Adam Ronaldson.
Adam, please, if you'd like to address the committee.
Yes, yeah, I'll take a few minutes of your time if that's possible. A year ago, Treveth presented a business plan that was approved by Cabinet. Due to lockdown in late March, full council did not meet to complete the approval process. Subsequently, Treveth then created a holding plan to mitigate the impact and risks of COVID-19. This business plan did not request any capital uplift as a result. We are now 12 months on and are proposing a fresh business plan that takes our capital uplift request back to the same level as was approved by Cabinet a year ago. This business plan does come with the benefit of 12 months additional operational knowledge, further work on proposed schemes, and the move from estimated costs of delivery to tendered costs for schemes. In this 12-month period, Treveth has moved from a startup organisation to a growing business that is more mature, more certain and more confident in its ability to deliver. That is a key reason why we have put in the business plan the Treveth commitments to sit alongside the Treveth asks. They state what Cornwall Council will get from Treveth for the total capital ask in the business plan. The overall capital ask for Treveth is shown in the section investment requirement of the covering paper, and the recommendation to the council sets out the requested increase in the capital programme. So what will Treveth deliver and do in the 4-year business plan? On the residential side of the business, we will deliver the schemes where land has recently been transferred from Cornwall Council or is due to be transferred imminently. This will deliver 586 Treveth homes. Also, we will build up a pipeline of new schemes managed by Treveth from the outset, with a goal to have a pipeline of 250 homes completed a year. This takes the total number of new homes Treveth will deliver over the 4-year business plan to 903, with an additional 133 homes in the first year after the 4-year plan. Also, Treveth will retain the affordable homes developed in the site in a registered provider to be set up. The approval of the business plan of this new entity is recommendation number 4 to the leader, as noted in the covering paper. I would also like to draw attention to the types of property Treveth will deliver. It will be built to nationally described space standards for all homes, not just the affordable elements, a 3-year open market rental period, and built to high environmental standards. This will improve the quality of homes built in Cornwall and also will look to disrupt the current private rented sector model. Turning to the commercial side, there is a degree of caution in this area as the impact of COVID-19 on business and commerce needs to become clearer. However, the business plan commits to the purchase of part of the council's commercial estate, where Treveth can add value through investment and refurbishment. Information on this proposed transaction is noted in the covering paper. We will also work with specific businesses with bespoke requirements for commercial space. So we will look to work where there is what we would call an anchor tenant in place. We are currently talking to organisations who would fit this criteria. Also, Treveth is looking to make selective investments in renewables and have included as part of the capital ask funding in this area. Also contained in the business plan is a request for approval to set up 2 new entities, one to put all the schemes purchased from Cornwall Council and one to hold the commercial assets to be developed. This is recommendation number 3 in the covering paper. As important as what is included is to look at what we have not included in the business plan. The Pydar regeneration project, we have to continue to act as the project manager only and only for the next financial year. There is no development after year 6 in the business plan, even though there is an intention for the council and Treveth to continue to invest beyond the 4-year cycle of the plan. The business plan has no involvement or outcomes from any review of the council's operating estate, and there is no involvement or outcome from the town funds bids and funding. To summarise, the plan focuses on a number of areas where Treveth commits to deliver specific outcomes that can be measured. In order to deliver these commitments, it has several specific asks that are set out in the covering paper. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else from Treveth wish to speak? Tim, do you wish to speak today?
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm here to answer questions as and when they come across the table, but Adam's relayed our position, and obviously you've all seen the business plans in their entirety. So I am here, yes.
Thank you very much. So questions to Treveth staff, please. And can I just remind everyone that there are some pink papers here. So if anyone has a question which strays into confidential territory, just let me know. And then at the end of the session, we'll move into part 2 as we did with CoreServe this morning. So questions to executives from Treveth, please. And the first one is Councillor Barnes.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. My question to Cornwall is, will you consult with local members in a better way than Cornwall Council has not done?
I can't speak for Cornwall Council, Councillor Barnes, but yes, we intend to consult with local members wherever possible. You and I have had a recent exchange of emails, and we are putting in remedy to the issue that you found yourself in to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Thank you.
Next question, please. Crossing the box. Any other questions, please?
Chair, it's David Harris. Sorry, I've lost my cross in the box.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, David.
Just one very simple question. How are we going to ensure a joined up estate, a joined up approach on the council properties? We've got CASSOSC that having an involvement. We've got the estate transformation team within Cornwall Council. We've now got Treveth saying that they're having involvement. How are we going to ensure, as a big group, if you like, that we get this all joined up and not going off in different silos? I've got a part 2 question as well.
Okay, thank you. Mike, I'll go to you first, Mike Eathorne-Gibbons, as you've got hopefully an overarching view of various parts of the jigsaw, please. So Mike Eathorne-Gibbons first.
Yes, I think it's a very good question. It's an area I've been concerned about for some time, is to make sure the various elements of property are brought together in a cohesive and sensible way. There is a council working group that has been established. I make reference to this in my period report. So we've got 3 senior officers, 3 senior members, and 3 external people. It's all being facilitated by an external guy who's got experience in this area. And we've had a couple of meetings. We're starting to get clearer on the way forward, but there's still a number of issues to be debated and resolved. But at a point in time, there will be output from this body, and as soon as possible, it will be made available to people. But if I can ask you, Councillor Harris, some patience, please, and you will hear in due course.
I don't do patience, Councillor Eathorne-Gibbons. I wonder, could we be told who's on this group? It's a very simple question.
Yes, in terms of the member who chair it, there's Councillor Painter and there's Councillor Dwelly. In terms of the officers, it's the Chief Executive, it's the Tracy Langley, the 151 officer, and Phil Mason. In terms of the external people, it's the Chairman of CASSOSC and the Chairman of Treveth. And there is an external facilitator whose name for the moment escapes me. It'll come back in a moment. David Morgan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any supplementaries, Councillor Harris?
No, thank you.
I'm going now to Councillor Frost.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is a kind of to do with the asset transfer. So as part of that transfer, there are private roads included that Cornwall Council currently own. As Mr. Reader is aware that we've had a conversation about this, one of the issues I've faced is getting work done to those roads for the businesses that access them due to the budget constraints of Cornwall Council. As this will be becoming Treveth's responsibility, is there a plan going forward for that? Are they going to be looking to use up funds to maintain and improve those roads, or would they be looking to just taking a hit, getting them to an adoptable standard, and then passing them onto highways so they can actually be part of the road network that they are part of?
Thank you, Councillor Frost. To answer that, we as Treveth will not be taking any adoptable highways across with us. We've looked at a couple of the assets where roads were included. My concern is the liability against the level of rent on the units is too restrictive to do that. If they are private roads in relation to the terraces of units that we take forward, they will come in as part of the transfer, and we'll have the obligation to maintain. And that will be the only roads we take.
Okay, thank you. Just so I know who to annoy when work needs to be done.
Okay, thanks for that, Lee. Councillor Burden, please.
Yeah, three quickies really. One is, can you assure us that sprinklers will be installed in all your new houses?
So we have fire suppressants in all of our houses, Councillor Burden.
What, like sprinklers or mist?
We're looking at both. So at the moment we've got sprinklers in. We're also looking at demisting systems because they do less damage if they go off.
Yeah, they can be restricted to the appropriate room, can't they now?
They can. So we're looking at all, but as a standing point, we will always have a fire suppressant system in our units. Yes.
That's great. Because there's, I know there's 2 companies in East Cornwall that do it for Wales. Work that one out. The next thing is you said about building relationships with elected members on page 173. How are you going to do that?
Currently, we use the local neighbourhood teams. We would expect through any public consultation, any new scheme, to obviously engage with local members and generate a relationship there. And as is the case with Councillor Barnes, what we're trying to do there now is extend the local neighbourhood link to a more direct route to suit individual councillors' requirements.
Would that be with the network rather than just the individual?
No, we will always take the actual elected member. We use the networks obviously because they've got a very good contact link with you guys anyway.
Yeah.
But we will always consult with the direct member in the first instance on any application, and thereafter, if there is a relationship required, we'll maintain that relationship with the direct member.
Lastly, with the social housing, you said something about setting up a trust or whatever. Have you picked that? Whoever's going to manage your social housing, or is that to come?
So no, it's a new company within the Treveth Holdings organisation. It will be called Parent Housing. We will need somebody to manage that element of it because they'll need to understand all the regulations. The intent is purely on the schemes that we develop, and the intent is it's because it gives us the ability to manage the entire scheme. The fact that we're holding an awful lot of private rent, and when you include affordable rent, about 80% of every one of our schemes will be held in management, and it just makes total sense for us to manage the scheme in its entirety rather than relying on a third party to come in and just manage a proportion.
Yeah, fine. So you have hands-on basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very necessary because at the moment some of our housing trusts and Cornwall Housing have not been good. Best practice has been a bit sad really, and you know, when I know somebody with another housing trust, she's been waiting 5 years for a kitchen, you know, and it's getting bad, and so therefore if you've got hands on, you have much more control. Well
Yes.
done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now moving to Councillor Monk.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your presentation, Tim. Just looking at page 136, there's a box right in the middle of it, and it just says on renewable energy. It's just empty. So I'm just wondering what that actually means, and then I'm also wondering what other renewable energy schemes you're hoping to tie in with any sort of future developments, especially with the sort of community energy schemes you incorporate in battery storage. Just wondering if you've got any worked up plans on that. And this might be a part 2 question as well. What percentage moving forward are you going to include local suppliers and local tradesmen within the, your procurement sort of measure within any sort of contracts that you give out? And I appreciate that one might be in part 2, but if you could answer with what you can, it'd be great. Thanks.
So while I'm answering the second and third, if Adam could just have a look at the report and answer on the empty box, because I haven't got it in front of me at the moment. In terms of other forms of renewables, we are looking, I mean, you've met Greg Slater, my head of design. Greg's doing a huge amount of work in that area. He's doing a lot of tie-in work with Southwest Energy and some of the other energy providers. Our intent is that we are carbon neutral and that we either have self-sufficient energy schemes on our own sites that the tenants and owners will benefit from, wherever possible, we would like to scale that up and add that into the communities. If there are existing community schemes around, we'd love to link into. As you know yourself, it's early days in that field at the moment, but Greg's doing an awful lot of research work into finding the best route forward for Treveth to play in that field. And we do want to be market leaders in it. We want to, I mean, the intent is that the sustainable energy is one of our main selling points, and all the benefits that come from that. So it's a key element in the structure going forward. In terms of Cornish labour supplies, it's our, if we could do 100%, we would do 100%. I mean, that is the absolute objective. We've got to be realistic. There are certain elements, particularly around energy, that we may have to bring some elements in from out of county, but wherever possible, it's an absolute policy that we try and use as many local subcontractors as possible. Adam, I don't know if you've got an answer on that empty box.
I don't have access to the papers that the councillors have, but I have gone to the information that we did provide, and the renewables section, the box, if it's one of the boxes that has short comments, it says investment with input from CC climate change team.
All right, no, it might be just a typo. It's on page 136 of my pack. And it's a box right in the middle, and it just says no current plans to deliver. Then it's got an empty box where it says other commercial opportunities, renewable energy. So I guess it might be a typo, but it's.
Unfortunately, I don't have access to your papers, councillor, so I can't cross-reference it. But I'll if you want to come back to us, please, I will answer that question.
Right, thank you. Cheers.
Members, could I just interject at this point and say that we need to change our live stream broadcast now at 2 o'clock. So could I ask you to just pause for one moment and to switch off your cameras and microphones until we get relogged on to the other broadcast network, please. So if you could just wait until just gone 2 o'clock when we get confirmation that we've changed our live stream. Thank you very much indeed.